Hey Art Nerds, I am going to be walking you through how we are completing our positive and negative space assignment. Now, the first thing we need is we need to have the letters of our first name written nice and big across our paper in bubble letters. Now, if bubble letters is something that is a struggle for you getting those figured out, I am going to walk through how I like to complete my bubble letters, how to get those figured out. If you already know how to draw some pretty successful bubble letters, well, you can fast forward just a little bit in this video and jump back in with us. So, to create my bubble letters, the first thing I need to do is write out the letters that I want to do. So I'm going to be writing out sour, and I'm drawing my letters nice and big, but also nice and light, because these are going to be erased eventually. So I don't want to have it so you'd see my pencil lines later on. Okay. Once you have your letters written out across your page, make sure you adjust if they're not quite big enough or if they're a little bit too big. You are going to be tracing around the edge, so kind of making a bubble around your letters. So then the line that I did create is running right down the middle. Okay, see how I did that? I'm going to be completing that with the rest of my letters. I'm going to go semi-quickly. Make sure you get the inside of letters like an A or an E also. Nice. All right, so after that, I'm going to erase those lines in the center, okay? Remember how I mentioned I was going to do that? Es muy importante. And if I drew them light enough, I should barely be able to see them. Okay. I also did my outlines to make the edges of my bubble letters fairly light, because a lot of these lines are going to end up getting erased. The only lines that we're going to be keeping are the lines that we're going to be creating with ink, or if you don't have any Sharpies handy, colored pencil works just fine, or markers works just fine. Once I have completely erased the lines in the center and my bubble letters are done, what I'm going to do is break up my background a little bit. So you can either make it straight lines or kind of wavy lines, but I am going to make these sort of like drippy kind of lines because it seems like fun. Now, since I have my background all divided up, what we are going to be doing is I'm going to get out my skinny Sharpie and my fat Sharpie. And if you don't have Sharpies available, if you use your pencil, that's okay. If you have a black colored pencil or regular colored pencils, that's fine, okay? But it looks really cool with the ink, or regular markers works because they're nice and dark. And what you're going to be doing is we are going to be leaving the letters of our name white. So we're leaving those empty. But everything else, so that means the area around, so that negative space and that negative space in between our letters, so especially like the holes in our letters, the negative space is going to be filled with patterns and designs and that kind of stuff that you're going to be creating. The positive space, the letters, are going to stay white. And when we're finished, we'll see that even if we don't have an outline around our letters, we can still read our letters because of the detail in the negative space. So I'm going to be completing this, going at it. So let's see what happens. Alright, so as you are working on your negative space background with all these designs, keep in mind that they don't have to be super complicated. You can do simple stripes, circles, triangles, and some of the easiest ways to make things more complicated is by filling in the background behind like your circles or your triangles with the Sharpie, so then they have a nice dark outline, or filling in every other stripe, or adding a circle or a square inside some of your shapes. So adding some of those details make it look even more complex, or make it look just even more darker, so then your positive space letters stand out more. While you're working on this, make sure you're always double checking that you're not accidentally going into your positive space that you want to keep white, especially if you are using a ruler to create part of your patterns and things like that, so you don't draw a line all the way through. So always take your time. Using a pencil first can be helpful in planning, but it might take a little bit extra time, because then you're basically drawing things twice. So figure out what you're most comfortable with. If you're going straight into the marker, make sure you really take your time and do your best not to make any mistakes, because you can't erase Sharpie marker. Now, since all of my negative space is filled up with designs, I'm going to go back and erase all of my old pencil lines. Okay, because I don't need the ones dividing my sections anymore. I don't need the ones for my letters anymore. And you will notice that even though you are erasing the outlines or the contour lines of your letters, that positive space, you don't need them, because even in these letters right here, you could still tell that this is a U, an E, and an R, even though I don't have my pencil lines outlining anymore, because that negative space is filled in really nicely, and you can really tell the difference between the negative space and the positive space because of the emptiness here and then the fullness or the darkness in that background. So go back, erase all of your old lines, and make sure that you get that back into me, because this is all you need. You're done. Awesome.